A platform through which we are able to set forth on a journey to discover more about ourselves. Our next speaker, Ginny Snyder, has been traveling with Toastmasters for 8 months now. But those months have also been spent following other paths of self-discovery. Please sit shotgun with her this morning as she takes us along for just a piece of that journey. Here's Ginny Snyder.
Here's the deal. I'm just going to put it out there, but I have to warn you, what I'm about to say is pretty shocking. And it's something you've probably never heard a woman say to a crowd before. Let me repeat that. I'm about to say something you've probably never heard a woman say to a group of people before. Are you ready?
Ready.
It goes, I am fat. Fat. That's me. Are you okay? No heart attacks, chest compressions needed, everybody's fine? Okay, good. Now that we have that out of the way, let me follow in the footsteps of our very own Joan, who just a few weeks ago stood in front of us and spoke to us about the fact that she had lost a tremendous amount of weight. I stand in front of you today 80 pounds thinner than I was at my very heaviest weight and 60 pounds smaller than I was just 8 months ago when I began Toastmasters. Oh. I'm still fat. And there's a good possibility that I may always be just a little bit fat. And that's okay because at this point I'm pretty used to it. But what this has been about for me is my health. And everything else that's come with it has just been a bonus. In the meantime, while I'm working on it, I'm still fat, but I've been fatter, and I've been thinner, much, much thinner. But that's the way my life has always kind of gone. I've been thin, and then fat, and then thinner, and then fatter, and then relatively thin, and then relatively fat, and then just a little bit fat, and then hello, really, really fat. But there's a big part of me that, let me start with this. I'm not going to get into why I've been overweight my whole off and on my whole life, or why I've struggled with it, because really, who wants to hear that? And I've always kind of resented the fact that there's the idea that fat people must be hugely, pardon the pun, emotionally damaged. Couldn't it just possibly be the fact that we have bad genetics and overachieving taste buds? I admit that in recent years, as I've become more comfortable with being fat, I have come to enjoy making people uncomfortable by saying such simple things as, I'm fat. I love it when people say to me, oh, you're not fat, don't say that about yourself. And I'm always flabbergasted by that because there's no one in this room today who could look at me and say, okay, she's not fat, because I am, it's okay. I'm not morbidly obese anymore, but I am still fat. My other favorite pastime has been wandering into new department stores, and after looking at all the deep, dark back corners where they normally hide the plus size sections, wandering up to a sales clerk and saying, excuse me, hi, can you tell me where the fat lady clothes are? No one ever knows how to respond to that. But I want to know, what makes the term fat lady clothes so much more offensive than plus size? This pastime, though, is very quickly coming to a close for me because I've noticed that I now have a very, very hard time shopping in the plus size section. In recent weeks, I've discovered that I can walk into just about any store and shop in any department. And I've got to tell you, it's overwhelming because there's just so many choices. And okay, see, it used to take me 10 minutes when I wandered into Macy's to check out their 10 by 10 fat lady section. Now it takes a good 40 minutes as I look through all of the choices. Did you know that a good 50% of a department store is made up of women's regular size clothing? I didn't, because I hadn't had that experience. In the past 10 years, my whole shopping world has been made up by a 10 by 10 section. By the size of a good-sized cubicle, that was my shopping world. The other thing that's been so confusing to me as I've gone through this has been my own body, and I don't mean the way I look. When you've lost a fairly significant amount of weight, even the way that you cross your legs or hold your arms in front of you changes. I was laying on the sofa the other night. Probably shouldn't have been, considering I'm trying to lose weight. But I was laying on the sofa the other night when I raised my hand up to scratch my hip and felt a hard lump. And my immediate thought was, ah, tumor. But it wasn't. It was my hip bone. My hip bone. What an amazing thing to be able to feel or see your hip bone and my collarbones. I was brushing my hair the other morning and went, hello, friends. I mentioned that my size has fluctuated quite a bit over the years, and so I've always had quite a large closet full of a good 5 or 6 sizes range of clothing. And in the past 8 months, I've been able to shop in my own closet as I've gone through all of those clothes, but I'm out of them. And so now I really do need to go shopping. But who has the time? If I spent the appropriate 40 minutes in each of the 4 department stores and 20 or more smaller clothing stores in a mall, it would take me 16 hours to shop appropriately. I just don't have time for that. I really am glad to be so much smaller, but I never thought I'd say this. There's part of me that thinks that being much fatter really was a little bit easier, or at least less time consuming. I am glad to be smaller though, and I do fully realize there's a good possibility that there may come a time where I can no longer own the word fat. And that's so confusing, because it really has been so many years.